My most controversial book ever is The Dark Side of Discipline. Today, I'm going to get interrogated by my friend Galel Fajardo, and we're going to dive deep into what discipline truly is and how it can help you succeed. This is Craig Ballantyne from Early to Rise Radio. Welcome to the show.
All right, Craig, you ready?
I am ready, Mr. Galel.
All right, so tell us, what is The Dark Side of Discipline?
So The Dark Side of Discipline, if you haven't read the book, I start off with this story of a friend of mine who was very successful in every way you could possibly imagine. You know, he had money, he had a great family, he had a fancy car, he was ripped, everything. And yet, because he had not done a couple of discipline challenges on the internet, I don't know, he felt like his self-confidence was low or something. So even though he was really busy with his family and really busy with his business, he went and started spending hours per day in this discipline challenge. And he did it once, and I was like, man, this is not going to end well. But he finished it, got his claps on the back from internet strangers, and then he went and did it again. And then his wife left him with kids. And now he's a dad who gets to see the kids every once in a while. And so the dark side of discipline is that chasing of discipline where it sacrifices something more important. So was he doing good things? He was doing workouts and cold plunging and reading a book a week, all good things on their own. But when that causes you to lose your marriage and access to your kids, obviously that good becomes bad because it sacrifices the great. And it kills me when I see this in other people, I hear other stories about it, because it's so important to me. I'm all about family. I'm a family man. I've always wanted to have a family. And when I see people lose their family for any reason, it hurts, but especially when it was an unforced error like that.
Yeah, because it was all things that they did themselves. They did it to themselves, basically.
Absolutely. There was no reason for things to get that out of hand.
What are some of the podcast horror stories that you have experienced or seen firsthand regarding the dark side of discipline?
So I'm probably doing about 100 shows now about the book, and I would say on about 10 of them, for example, there's this guy named Sean French. He has a really great podcast, really big show. And when we were talking about it, he goes, yeah, man, one time I was in this discipline challenge. I had to work out twice a day, and my wife said, hey, we're going to the beach with the kids. And Sean said, I can't go. I got to do my second workout. And she looked at him with the death stare of divorce eyes. But there was one that was even sadder, and it was this woman who, when we got on the podcast, she actually was really angry at me. Well, I wouldn't say angry at me, but she said when she read the book, she was very resistant to it. And so the podcast was actually quite fun because she was very challenging of my beliefs and what I shared in the book. And she talked about how at one point in her life, in the last couple of years, she was driving from Florida to Montana, and she was trying to run her business at the same time, but also do a physical exercise challenge. So every single day she had a certain amount of activity she had to do, and she has MS. And so she started off saying, I did the challenge and I drove from here to there, and it was really hard and my MS got worse. And when she said that, she kind of went, oh. And it's like, yes, this is exactly what I'm trying to explain to people, is that we are sacrificing something like her health for a random series of things that are, somebody has defined as discipline. And it makes me laugh, the 100 push-ups in 100 days thing is a common one that I just think is ridiculous because it's so random. Why not 110 push-ups in 110 days? Why not 99 push-ups in 99 days? Somebody just made this up, and it doesn't actually signify that you've accomplished anything. It's not transferable in that if you do 100 push-ups in 100 days, all of a sudden you will never eat a cheesecake again, or that you will always stick up for people in public. It just is not the same thing, because discipline has a specificity around it. And so it bothers me when I talk to people who have great ambition and who have big goals and dreams, and they're letting this good stuff get in the way of the great.
Yeah, it's reminds me, as you were describing this, of lotto winners. The vast majority of lotto winners lose their fortune because they didn't earn it the way that you need to build a fortune, right? Yeah. They did not become a millionaire in the process in their head.
No.
And then they end up losing. It's the same thing as if we were to add 200 pounds onto your body right now, I have no doubt a year from now, that weight would be largely gone off of you because you have the systems and disciplines built in, right? Yeah. You got to change what you're focused on. One of the other things that you have talked about, I'm curious if you could expand on it, is when ambition becomes avoidance.
Well, that's what most of this stuff is that the people who get into these discipline challenges on the internet, they open up their phone and they see, this other person is, they got 100,000 views on their ice bath. I better go and do it. And, ambitious people, I'm an ambitious person. I want to achieve it all. I want to have it all. I want to do it all. I want to travel to all the places that I see show up on my Instagram. And so the problem is that those things that we want to do often are good. We want to read a book a week. We want to work out. We want to, maybe do a triathlon or a marathon. It's not like we want to sit in front of Netflix and drink a 6-pack of beer and eat a Papa John's pizza and then a bag of chips. Like, that's a bad thing to do. Mm-hmm. But ambitious people will go and do all the workouts and read the book a week, but they'll sacrifice writing the book that they've wanted to write forever. And that's really sad to me as a person who has written a lot of books. And when you write a book, you hear from all these other people who are like, oh, I want to write a book too. And then you see them 6 months or 12 months later and you ask them, like, how's the book going? And they're like, oh, I haven't started yet. But if you looked, it's not like they haven't done anything in the last year. It's just that they've done a whole bunch of stuff that doesn't matter. Good stuff that doesn't matter. And they didn't do the great stuff that matters the most. And that's the unfortunate thing. And that's total avoidance behavior, because they're getting dopamine hits from people on the internet that they never met, never will meet. They're getting likes, they're getting comments. They're getting all these things that keep them busy, and the activities are keeping them busy. But when they're 80 years old, the thing that will matter the most is the thing that didn't get done.
So I'm curious, as a coach, from somebody who's coached many entrepreneurs like yourself, how do you coach somebody who is addicted to achievement, where discipline for them has almost become a drug? How do you wean somebody off of that?
Man, that is a great question. And so one of the most important things that we need to do is step back. And we need to step back and figure out what really matters. And so we start with taking somebody and figuring out what their big why is. Like, what are you doing all of this for in the first place? And then the most important step to me is creating that vision for their life. So in 3 years from now, I want them to be able to tell me where they're living, what the house looks like, what cars are in the garage, what the relationship is with their partner or spouse. If they have kids, what do their kids do? Where do the kids go to school? What does the family do? What does the family not do? What do you do on vacation? Where do you not go? All of these things. So just paint the picture. Give me the movie script of your future so that I can close my eyes and see everything and watch the movie of your life. And then once I know that, that's your North Star. That's the direction that we're going. That's your treasure map. And then we're just going to make sure that we build you the steps to get there and give you a straight line to success. And now that allows us to filter everything through. So we can say, if they bring an idea to me or that they're doing something, I can say, hey, listen, just one, double check, like in 3 years from now, we want to accomplish this, this, and this, and this is how we want things, right? Yes, that's exactly it. Okay, so this activity that you're doing, does this get you closer to or further away from the North Star? And then they can run everything through that filter. And when they're doing that, or they can also ask a question like, is this serving you or are you serving this activity? So is it benefiting you or is it actually detrimental to what you want? And when you ask those questions, now you can make better decisions about what you're doing so that you're making the right decisions towards your future.
One of the things that you mention in the book is this notion of level 10 discipline. Mm-hmm. Can you explain to us what is level 10 discipline?
Right. So if we go back to the ambitious people, what they were doing is they were really putting a level 10 effort, like a lot of work, into something that didn't matter so much. And so over the years, I've seen this so often, especially in the fitness industry, where people are broke gym owners who are in great shape. So technically they're disciplined because they're in great shape and they're putting a level 10 effort into staying in great shape, but they're broke and they have the knowledge, they've read the books, they've gone to the seminars, and they know how to build the business. It's not like they haven't gathered the information on it, but they haven't taken the action on it. So they're actually very undisciplined at the same time. And so I just use this as like they have a level 10 effort into a level 1 problem. So the level 10 effort into staying in shape, which is not a problem at all in their life. And they have a level 1 effort into their level 10 problem, which is applying sales and marketing. They're not doing it. That's the level 1 effort. And the level 10 problem is huge because they're broke and they're about to go out of business. And so there's this massive mismatch and misalignment. And we see this in almost every human being alive because it's just, the stupid human trick that we have is to take the path of least resistance and to go for the thing that's going to give us the dopamine hits and satisfy our brain. So I realized that the ultimate definition of discipline is very simple. It's not cold plunging. It's not 5 a.m. club. It's not whether you've done a challenge. It's not whether you've done a marathon or an ultra marathon or the Badwater ultra marathon, whatever it is, because it's always upping the ante. You can never get enough. And so the ultimate definition of discipline is putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problem. Everything else is just entertainment. And at worst, it's a perverse form of procrastination, because the cold plunge that people are doing, most often they're just doing it to get a bunch of likes on the internet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't actually solve the marriage that's gone cold. It doesn't actually solve the fact that they haven't had a difficult discussion with their business partner who's either not doing their fair share of the work or is stealing money from the company. It's a classic avoidance behavior. They think they're doing hard things. They think they're disciplined. But at the end of the day, none of that stuff really matters if you're not addressing the big problems in your life.
So this book has become a bestseller. So congratulations to you and Daniel for that. You see the seal.
Well, that was table stakes, man. Like if it wasn't a bestseller, like that'd be a problem.
Yeah, which comes to your standards, right? And you said, no, this will become a bestseller.
Right.
And now you've been on the podcast tour. A lot of people are talking about the book. Now reflecting back, what was missing from the book?
Oh yeah, I totally screwed this up. So the level 10 effort argument is in the book. Like, hey, figure out what your biggest problem is in life. That's your level 10 problem. Now, do a little bit of self-reflection and write down like what level of effort are you putting into this. And so most people would be like, oh, I got a level 10 problem. Maybe I'm in $30,000 worth of credit card debt. That's my biggest problem. And, I'm kind of chipping away at it. So I'd say like a level 6. Okay, great. So there's a mismatch and you can put more. But I didn't explain to them how to actually put the level 10 effort into it, which I realized after I did a bunch of shows. But fortunately, the solution is very simple. So if you have a level 10 you have a level 10 problem, but once you've identified it, and let's carry on with that $30,000 worth of credit card debt example, and you're putting a level 6 into it. So maybe you're chipping away $500 a month at it, and that's going to take forever to do it. What I want you to do is think about what it would look like if you were putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problem, and then simply take out a piece of paper and just write all of those things down. Like, what are the top 10 things that would take your level 6 effort and turn it into a level 10 effort? Well, you would cut up all your credit cards. You would get a side job, maybe driving Uber or delivering pizza or whatever it is. And then you would ask for help. You would go to your parents and say, hey, can you lend me some money? You would transfer all your money from high interest credit cards to lower interest credit cards. You would make sure that you stop all your discretionary spending. You would live off ramen for a month. You would, that's a level 10 effort. Okay, great. So now I would look at that and think, okay, what are the 2 or 3 things that are going to make the biggest impact, and implement them immediately. And over time, continue to make sure that I'm putting a level 10 effort in my level 10 problem. So it's very simple. So fortunately, I didn't leave a huge thing out of the book, just a very simple step into how to start making the change. But the most important thing in there is to get people to realize, like, oh man, where my energy and effort is going these days is not really going into the thing that's really going to move the needle in the most important areas of my life.
Love that. How do you apply a level 10 discipline in your day as a dad of 3 under 3?
Right. So, the most important things in my life are my wife, my kids, writing more books, and running my business. And for me, staying healthy is table stakes. And for me right now, putting a level 10 effort in my health, it doesn't require it. And, so me doing some hardcore workout challenge, is not the thing. So I'm giving it the maintenance level, and I'm making sure that my schedule is free for my family, that I have boundaries around what I'm willing to do and not willing to do for work, that I am keeping my weekends and most of my Wednesdays free for my family, and that I'm keeping my phone away when I'm with my kids, and that I'm waking up early to get my most important work done before the family gets up, and also to make sure that we buy back our time as much as possible so that we have help come into the house. I work in the house. I work right beside my kids, but they're playing with our nannies, so I get the best of both worlds, in my opinion. I get to listen to them laugh, and I get to hang out with them a little bit, but I also get to do my work, and I'm able to stay focused on it. And so I just designed the systems for our house and for my own life and for my schedule so that I'm maximizing the minutes that I have.
One of the things that I know that you and I talk about when we're working with clients is that clients will oftentimes, when they first come to us, try to like do these outrageous strategies to try to work on their level 10 problems. And I'm curious if you can talk about maybe some examples in your life of some sustainable strategies that you've used to focus your attention where it needs to be.
I think one of the most important things is the removal of the temptations, the distractions, the toxic people, because for years I've realized that discipline mostly comes through subtraction. Because for us, we have a mountain of willpower that we can use, and it's going to be exhausted pretty quickly, with our phones, with all the junk food. Whenever I come to America, because I'm from Canada, people always give America a hard time because like 60% of people are overweight. And I come to America and I drive down the street with all the stores and the billboards. I'm like, I can't believe 100% of the population in America is not obese, because it is so easy to overeat in America. And every single commercial and like, especially like at LAX, it makes me laugh. I stay at the Westin at LAX, and it's like this desolate strip of road, and it's just billboard after billboard after billboard. It's Papa John's, and then it's like lap band surgery, and then it's another fast food thing, and then another lap band surgery or some other anti-obesity surgery or pill or something. It's like, that's America, man. If we just make sure that we don't get tempted by all of those things, we won't end up in trouble. So the sustainable things that everybody can do is keep your environment free of the toxicity. Like, just make sure the distractions and roadside bombs that could blow up your life don't get into your life. Another analogy I use is building a fence around yourself. So you and I have talked about how you use the brick for your phone. So, Galel has this thing and he attaches his phone to it. And when it's attached to the phone, it can only do a couple of rudimentary functions. For me, I had something similar when I was writing my books. The first few books that I wrote is I would take my phone and I would first put it in airplane mode. I would physically turn it off. I would put it in another room, and I would put it in a desk drawer. And you said something funny. You said, I have this walk of shame when I'm going from my office to the kitchen, which is where he keeps his phone on the brick. And during that time, there's enough space for you to like kind of slap your hand a few times. And I remember when I was writing my books with my little system, I would get up from the table, I would go into another room, I would open the drawer, and all along the way, I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I would get to the point of like turning it on, or maybe even taking it out of airplane mode, and that would just be just enough time for me to slap my hand, put it back, and go back to work. And it's just that was building a fence around myself so that I could stay focused. And even when tempted, there was enough time in between. It's kind of like when your parents said, count to 10 before you say something out of anger. And that's just what we need. And those are the sustainable strategies. Because if I look back at my 25 years of coaching people, one of the things that I say is it's very difficult to make viral content around this, but it's like a linchpin, bedrock, foundational habit of successful people is that they get to bed on time. If you get to bed on time, if you make that a sustainable habit, that you have a reverse alarm that goes off an hour before you bedtime, so that you wind down, turn off all your electronics, you get to bed on time, you get up on time. Now the rest of the day you can knock down positive dominoes. But if you don't get to bed on time, the chances of you getting up on time are pretty slim. And then now you're hitting the snooze button, now you're over caffeinating, now you have too much sugar, now you're getting caught in traffic because you had that window of time where you had to leave before like 8:15 and you left 25 after 8, and now you're stuck in traffic, and now you're using all your willpower and discipline not to yell and cut people off. And by the time you get to the office, now you're yelling at Sally in the break room because she, drank your lemonade or something, And if you just had that sustainable habit of getting to bed on time, you remove like 15 bad negative dominoes from the next day because you got to bed on time. And so it's simple things like that again are not as Instagram worthy as a cold plunge with a bunch of beautiful girls. Like, have you seen that Ogi Balthoff or whatever? He's like some guy from Iceland.
Yes.
It's like 100 million views of him doing an ice bath with the girls, and they're like up to their ankles or something. And they're really ice bathing. It's ridiculous. And then he dunks his head under.
Yeah.
That's much more Instagrammable than somebody getting to bed on time. But that's the thing you have to do.
Yeah, it looks boring, but
it is boring.
Makes a huge difference.
It is boring, but if you want to write books, if you want to become a multimillionaire, if you want to make your startup into something that people will buy, like if you want to get in shape, like that's what you do. That is just what you have to do.
Last question for you: what do people get wrong about discipline?
they get wrong that it's about suffering. So there's a difference between sacrifice and suffering. And there's an instant internet meme on this. I should have brushed up on this one, but there's a picture where, the road to heaven is, it's paved with like hellish activities. And what it means is the road to like being in shape and living long and being successful is paved with work. And then the road to hell is paved with what looks like heaven. It's this person just eating food and sitting around, becoming slothful, which means they become overweight. The next thing you know, they're driving a motorized wheelchair around, they are diabetic, and they die early. And so the person who's on, doing the heavenly activities on the road to hell, they're eventually going to have real suffering. The person who is sacrificing on the road to heaven is making short-term sacrifices, and that's not suffering at all. So in order to be successful, people think that you have to suffer, that you have to do, quote unquote hard things, that you have to hate what you're doing, that it's hard to be successful and it's hard to be disciplined. But it's not. If you have that long-term vision of, I'm going for something that really matters to me, I'm willing to make a short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain. And I think that's the biggest mindset, mistake people make, because then they either don't start. They're like, oh man, I don't want to suffer and go on this nutrition plan. I'm just not going to do it at all. Or they just get addicted to the suffering, and they think that if it's not horrible, if it's not something they don't like, then it's not really discipline and won't make them successful. Like, going to bed on time. Like, there's no actual pain to that compared to like a cold plunge or working out twice a day. But that's actually what you need to do. Just make a little bit of a sacrifice and you will have the success. So typical American thing, let's make it discipline to the extremes or not at all.
Well, this has been fantastic, Craig. Thank you so much for your time today. We learned a ton about discipline. We're going to encourage everybody, go out, get the book. Go to darksideofdiscipline.com. Make sure you pick up this book. It is a game changer. I know it's been a game changer for our coaching clients that have worked with us. And if you are an entrepreneur who's looking to scale your business, go check out our coaching program at earlytorise.com/coaching. See if you're a fit for our program so we can help you build these systems into your business. Craig, it's been awesome talking with you today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.